Om Machyanantibrandasya Jananjana Shalakya Shakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namah Shitchaitanyamanopistam Staptam Yena Bhutale Svamrupakadam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shigo Shiyuda Padakamalam Shiram Vaishnavamsa Shirupam Sarajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savdutam Parjana Saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakanalita Shivashakam Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Yatpate Gopesha Kalpa Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kansana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanaśvai Vrishabhani Sutta Devi Pranamama Haripriye Vankha Kalptrabhasha Kripa Sindhavasha Padnam Bhavani Bhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale
Recording in progress.
Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravanya Pracharini Nirvishesha Sinyavadi Paskachai Desatarani Srila Prabhupada Ki. So we are entering the final chapter of Canto 8, chapter 24, Matsya, the Lord's fish incarnation. Matsya is the fish incarnation. So the Lord can take any form when he has his purpose to fulfill. This incarnation has nothing to do with a fish from this world. Fish are considered one of the lowest creatures on the evolutionary scale in both Vedic evolutionary measurement system and the current scientific one. They have very little brain substance and they are happy to go around in a little bowl or pond as long as they can't remember that what they have been before. So they pass their excrements into the water and they breathe through that same very water. They are not considered very high creatures. But when Krishna assumes or takes the form of a fish with a horn, he is completely transcendental. And again we are being prepared by the Bhagavatam for Krishna's own appearance, which comes into the 10th canto. We just heard of the Lord in the form of a dwarf Brahman, and he is transcendental. And even so, he is a dwarf, meaning quite small in size, with his footstep, because he is unlimited, he pierces the universe with his foot. So Krishna can take the form of a dwarf and be unlimited. And Krishna takes the form of a fish and can be unlimited. And Krishna takes the form of a hog and is unlimited. And Krishna in his original form as a cowherd boy is unlimited. And he is not a cowherd boy, a fish or a dwarf. He is not a cowherd boy, but he wants to enjoy pastimes as a cowherd boy or a fish. Because he has devotees that he wishes to relate to and perform those pastimes. So after hearing about the dwarf incarnation, now Maharaj Pariksit is going to speak the first verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Shiracho Vacha Bhagavan Shrotum Ichami Harir Adbhuta Karmanaha Avatara Katamma Dyam Maya Matsha Vidambanam. Can someone read the translation of the first verse, please?
Maharaj Pariksit said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is eternally situated in his transcendental position, yet he descends to this material world and manifests himself in various incarnations. His first incarnation was that of a great fish. O most powerful Sukdev Goswami, I wish to hear from you the pastimes of that fish incarnation. Hare Krishna.
So the Lord is always transcendental, or beyond the material world. Transcendental is a definition through the negative. This means that he is not of this world. Like a prisoner will think there are two kinds of people in this world. There are the prisoners and there are those who are free. The free means that those who are not prisoners, but amongst the non-prisoners, those who are free, they are doing so many things, and one can positively describing what they are doing, as they are not residents of the prison house, although they come into the prison house. Saying that Krishna is always is transcendental always, disregarding his form, means that he is not touched or contaminated by the prison house in this material world. So he is beyond. Yet as there are unlimited varieties of free persons, there are also unlimited varieties with transcendence. It is not that everyone is free and is doing the same. Everyone who is free is doing the same thing or is just free. But Krishna manifesting his individuality in an unlimited way, and the freed souls manifesting it in a more subtle way. Yes, Mother Kanta.
Hare Krishna. Is there a connection between the previous chapter and this chapter, or maybe from where this question rose in Maharaj Pariksit?
Yeah, he seems to know that the first incarnation was a great fish. It comes from Maharaj Pariksit. I don't see any earlier connection to it, because he has spoken about so many incarnations. Vamandev was the last one. Then we had about Nrsingadev in the previous canto. We have heard also about Varadev. So we have heard all these incarnations, and he's asking here what, because of the first one. He says his first incarnation. I don't know, in the Gita Govinda, the first verse is, I think, of the Gita Govinda is Mina Sarira, is also the fish. So it seems to be the first of the 10 avatars. And yeah, Maharaj Pariksit was learned, so he knew this. And he's asking this question. That's what I can say. I don't see a connection with previous, that although previous incarnations have been mentioned. Yes, Mother Prema Manjari.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Just regarding this question of Ekanta Mataji,
Yeah.
I was listening to the seminar by Bhaktivedanta Goswami.
Yes.
about the systematic flow of Srimad Bhagavatam. And I heard he said for the 8th canto that these stories are actually Shuka's different levels of surrender. So, like for example, the Gajendra was the first one
Yeah.
who was like the unhappy because of distress.
Yeah.
Then Lord Shiva was because of curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then the demigods and the demons that fight was because the demigods surrendered to the Lord. They wanted material prosperity.
Yeah.
And then Bali was unconditional surrender. But this, now here we will have this Satyavrata,
Yeah.
King Satyavrata, right? So for him, he explained that he's like in the category of a Jnani, he wanted transcendental knowledge with his surrender.
Yeah.
That's how, that's what I heard.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. Chatur Vidabjantamam Yechna Sritarana Artosichnasur
Yes.
Artihyana Sabaratashava. Is this verse applied to the 10th canto? And that's true, all these levels are there. Thank you, amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Maharaj, and there is also connection from this Vaman to this fish incarnation is that the Vaman came as a beggar and then he expanded into the three Vikrama form. So then when Maharaj Parikshit heard this story about this Vaman, he remembered the fish incarnation which also expanded into the big fish, you know.
That's true. That is a common aspect in both pastimes. That may made him remember, that the fish incarnation was the same, and we will see that very funny with Satyavata. If the fish starts with a very little fish in the palm of his hands, that. Yeah, very good. Thank you for sharing that. So the Lord is in a transcendental position. He descended in this world and manifests him in different incarnations. So the Lord accepts the form of a fish, but obviously is going to be quite an uncommon fish. And we will hear about him now. So, but Maharaj Parikshit, he continues his question in 2.3. Can someone read the translation, please?
Hare Krishna. What was the purpose for which the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepted the abominable form of fish, exactly as an ordinary living being accepts different forms under the laws of karma? The form of a fish is certainly condemned and full of terrible pain. O my Lord, what was the purpose of this incarnation? Can't you explain this to us? For hearing about the pastimes of the Lord is auspicious for everyone.
Yes. So, the Lord does not accept a form as ordinary conditioned souls accept a form. But there is a difference between the soul and the gross and subtle body, subtle form that the soul inhabits. But when Krishna is accepting a form of a fish, then he's basically accepting the mood of a fish. It is not that he is different from that form, he is that form. His fish-like body is completely transcendental. It is composed of eternality, bliss, and knowledge. So, here in the purport it said, Vamandev, for example, appeared to save the devotee Bali Maharaj. So externally, Vamandev came to save Indra's position, but actually came to save Bali Maharaj. So similarly, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepted the abominable form of a fish, he must have done so to favor some devotee. Parikshit Maharaj was eager to know about the devotee for whom the Supreme Lord accepted this form. Who is that devotee? Can someone read text 4 and 5, please?
Sutta Goswami said, when Parikshit Maharaj thus inquired from Sukadev Goswami, that most powerful saintly person began describing the pastimes of the Lord's incarnation as a fish.
Yeah, 5.
Sri Sukadev Goswami said, O king, for the sake of protecting the cows, brahmanas, demigods, devotees, the Vedic literatures, religious principles and principles to fulfill the purpose of life, the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts the forms of incarnations.
So this is a general statement. There are the reasons why the Lord so-called descends in the material world. So I hesitate to use the word descent, as we usually say he descends in the material world, because he actually does not descend to the material world. He never comes down into the material world. He's transcendental to the material world, whether it appears that he seems to be in the material world or not. Can someone read text 6, please?
Like the air passing through different types of atmosphere, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing sometimes as a human being and sometimes as a lower animal, is always transcendental. Because he is above the material modes of nature, he is unaffected by higher and lower forms.
So all embodied souls in this material world are afflicted or controlled by the different combinations of the modes of material nature. Sometimes one person is very passionate and another is less passionate, but more ignorant, and another person is more self-satisfied in the mode of goodness. This is not our choice. I'm not choosing to be tired or active or self-satisfied. This is actually forced upon us by the different combinations of the modes of material nature, goodness, passion and ignorance. So whatever form we are in, we see that in different animals. Cows, they are generally just peaceful, which indicates something to do with the mode of goodness. Monkeys are the perfect example of non-peace, because monkeys are either fighting or engaged in other activities or jumping from one place to another, and they go to sleep, especially at noontime. As soon as they stop moving, they fall asleep. And they are moving and fighting. So then there are many other animals, such as squirrels flapping here and there. As different animals have different modes of nature, so we individuals have different propensities born of different combinations of the modes of material nature. But when Krishna comes to this world, the modes of nature, goodness, passion and ignorance did not touch him. They do not force him to act in any way as they force us to act in any way. Then the example in text 6 here. Like the air passing through different types of atmosphere. So the Lord is situated in his own bliss, continuously and only, despite what forms he appears in, because he is not within a form as we are within our bodies. So Yeah, I will read a part of the purport. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the master of material nature, Mayadrakshana Prakati Sucha Checha Characharam. So everything in this world is going under my supervision, Krishna says, under my supervision, so he is the supervisor. So therefore, being the supreme controller of the laws of nature, the Lord cannot be under their influence. An example given in this regard is that although the wind blows through many places, the air is not affected by the qualities of these places. Although the air sometimes carries the odor of a filthy place, the air has nothing to do with such a place. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, being all good and all auspicious, is never affected by the material qualities like an ordinary living entity. Purusa pragatisto hi bhunkte pragati jangunan. So why is a living entity affected by the qualities of material nature, according to this verse? It says, the second line tells us why he is affected by the modes of material nature. And the third line, Karanam Gunasanghasya, that and therefore is affected by the modes. And the fourth line gives the result, birth and death. Yes, Acha Prabhu.
Maharaj, I found something very interesting. In the summary to this chapter, Prabhupada is saying, it said, once at the end of previous Canto, a demon named Hagrid wanted to take the knowledge away from Brahma. Therefore, Lord took the incarnation of fish at the beginning of Swayambha Yuga and saved the Vedas. It was then during the reign of Chakshushmanu, it was Satyavata, and to save him, the Lord appeared a fish for the second time.
Yeah.
This is the second time we're talking about. So that's why it's the first is the start of the day of Brahma. He was there.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
That's why the first.
That was Madhu and Kaitava who stole the Vedas.
Yes.
And now it's the second time. That's correct. So it seems these Lila avatars, they are appearing regularly, but both have the same purpose. We will see, saving the Vedas. That's interesting. Thank you. So I continue with the purport. So when the living entity is in the material world, is affected by its qualities. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, is not affected. Disrespectfully, one who does not know this considers the Supreme Personality of Godhead an ordinary living being, avajananti mamuda, brahmavamajanata. Such a conclusion is reached by the unintelligent because they are unaware of the transcendental qualities of the Lord. So they are unaware of the qualities of the Lord that are transcendental. Now Sukadev Goswami is going to begin to describe the pastime of Matsya. Can summary text 7, 8 and 9 translation.
O King Parikshit, at the end of the past millennium, at the end of Brahma's day, because Lord Brahma sleeps during the night, annihilation took place, and the three worlds were covered by the water of the ocean. At the end of Brahma's day, when Brahma felt sleepy and desired to lie down, the Vedas were emanating from his mouth, and the great demon named Hayagriva stole the Vedic knowledge.
Yeah, next one.
Understanding the acts of the great demon Hayagriva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, who is full of all opulences, assumed the form of a fish and saved the Vedas by killing the demon.
So that was the first appearance, and that which is described here. That in the purport it says, because everything was inundated by water to save the Vedas, it was necessary for the Lord to assume the form of a fish. So this was during a different Manu. This was the first Manu, Svambhuva Manu. We heard about him in the third canto, that Svambhuva Manu and Satarupa and their daughter Devahuti. So it was during this Manu that he came to kill Ayagriva to save the Vedas. And this was the Sakshur Manvantar. That was at that time the Sakshur Manvantar. So yes. Now we come here. Text. Can someone read text 10, please?
During the Chakshusha Manvantara, there was a great king named Satyavata, who was a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Satyavata performed austerities by subsisting only on water.
So yeah, this is Satyavrata, that was subsisting only on water. That's quite a vow he took. So can someone read can you also read the purport, please?
Yes. The Lord assumed one fish incarnation to save the Vedas at the beginning of the Swayambhuva Manvantara. And at the end of the Chakshusha Manvantara, the Lord again assumed the form of a fish just to favor the great king named Satyavata. As there were two incarnations of Varaha, there were also two incarnations of the fish. The Lord appeared as one fish incarnation to save the Vedas by killing Hayagriva, and he assumed the other fish incarnation to show favor to King Satyavata.
So our present Manu is Saksusa Manu. So one of the characteristics of the Bhagavatam is that it explains Manvantar, which relate to different incarnations of Manu, and Ishanukata, the topic of different forms of the Lord. Yes. So can someone read text 11 up to text 15?
In this millennium, King Satyavrata later became the son of Vivaswan, the king of the sun planet, and was known as Shraddha By the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he was given the post of Manu.
Yeah.
One day, while King Satyavrata was performing austerities by offering water on the bank of the river Kritamala, a small fish appeared in the water in his palms.
Yeah. 13.
Satyavrata, the king of Dravida Desha, threw the fish into the water of the river along with the water in his palm. O King Parikshit, descendant of Bharat, with an appealing voice, the poor small fish said to King Satyavrata, who was very merciful, "My dear king, protector of the poor, why are you throwing me in the water of the river, where there are other aquatics who can kill me? I am very much afraid of them."
And 15.
To please himself, King Satyavrata, not knowing that the fish was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, decided with great pleasure to give the fish protection.
So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, this is an example of giving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even without knowledge. So Bharat Maharaj was also doing austerities, and he decided to give protection to a deer, and that caused him so much trouble. But here Satyavrata is giving protection to a fish, and that is glorious, because the fish is the Supreme Lord, but without any knowledge. Devotional service without knowledge is called Ajnata Sukriti, pious benefits without knowledge. So King Satyavata wanted to show his own mercy, not knowing that the fish was Lord Vishnu. By such unknowing devotional service, one is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Service rendered to the Supreme Lord, knowingly or unknowingly, never goes in vain. Can now someone read from text 16 up to 23?
Hare Krishna. The merciful king, being moved by the pitiable words of the fish, placed the fish in a water jug and brought him to his own residence. But in one night that fish grew so much that he could not move his body comfortably in the water of the pot. He then spoke to the king as follows. Oh, my dear king, I do not like living in this water pot with such great difficulty. Therefore, please find some better reservoir of water where I can live comfortably. Then, taking the fish out of the water pot, the king threw him in a large well. But within a moment, the fish developed to the length of 3 cubits. The fish then said, My dear king, this reservoir of water is not fit for my happy residence. Please give me a more extensive pool of water, for I have taken shelter of you. O Maharaja Parikshit, the king took the fish from the well and threw him in a lake, but the fish then assumed a gigantic form exceeding the extent of the water. The fish then said, O king, I am a large aquatic, and this water is not at all suitable for me. Now kindly find some way to save me. It would be better to put me in the water of a lake that will never reduce. When thus requested, King Satyavrata took the fish to the largest reservoir of water. But when that also proved insufficient, the king at last threw the gigantic fish into the ocean.
It's not clear how we managed to transport him, but he ended up into the ocean. Can someone else read from text 24 till 27, please?
While being thrown in the ocean, the fish said to King Satyavrata, O hero, in this water there are very powerful and dangerous sharks that will eat me. Therefore, you should not throw me in this place. After hearing these sweet words from the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of a fish, the king, being bewildered, asked him, Who are you, sir? You simply bewilder us. My lord, in one day you have expanded yourself for hundreds of miles, covering the water of the river and the ocean. Before this, I had never seen or heard of such an aquatic animal. My lord, you are certainly the inexhaustible Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayana, Srihari. It is to show your mercy to the living entities that you have now assumed the form of an aquatic.
So the fish is clearly not an ordinary fish. It's clearly extraordinary. His grown pattern is astonishing. Whatever form the Lord takes is transcendental. Matcha is not a fish of this world. This fish possesses unlimited potency, even when he was a small fish. Like Vamandev expanded himself, Lord Matcha expanded himself in the form of a huge fish. The potency of the Lord is also unlimited. Again, these concepts need to be deeply implanted in our consciousness before we hear about Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. Can someone read text 28, please?
Oh my Lord, Master of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. O best of enjoyers, Lord Vishnu. You are the leader and destination of surrendered devotees like us. Therefore, let me offer my respectful obeisances and you.
So leader and destination. So why leader? Why is he the leader of the surrendered devotees? He's the leader and the surrendered devotees follow him. That is what it means to be surrendered. Whatever you want me to do, I will do. Why is he the destination of surrendered devotees? The devotees does not want anything of this world, and he just wants to be with the Lord because he's in love. In other words, Satyavrata understood that this is the Lord. He offers his humble obeisances. Someone read text 29, please.
All your pastimes and incarnations certainly appear for the welfare of all living entities. Therefore, my Lord, I wish to know the purpose for which you have assumed this form of a fish.
So it's quite astounding. My Lord. You are in the form of a fish now, but when you come to this world, then there is a purpose behind it. So what's your purpose in coming in this specific form? Text 30.
O my Lord, possessing eyes like the petals of a lotus, the worship of the demigods who are in the bodily concept of life is fruitless in all respects. But because you are the supreme friend and dearmost super soul of everyone, worship of your lotus feet is never useless. You have therefore manifested your form as a fish.
Yes. We have seen that in the last pastime, that the worship of the demigods is fruitless, because who was the person who the Lord actually benedicted? The demigods worshipped the Lord. And what did they want? They wanted to regain heaven. The basic idea is that when we are sakam, we have material desires. And what do we get? We gain our material desires. But Bali Maharaj gave up and renounced these material desires. Remember this point. He renounced his material desires for the pleasure of Vamandev. So one of the gates he had to pass through is the gate of these material desires to attain Krishna. So in the next class, this point will come up. The great key in giving up material desires shall be revealed. How to do it, how to give up these material desires. So the worship of the demigods is fruitless because they are in the body conception of life. When I'm thinking that I'm the body, then I'm not thinking that I'm your servant. Then the actual result they are not obtaining. Yet it is in our interest to give up our material desires and not be in the bodily concept of life, rather be in the spiritual concept of life, which begins with I'm Krishna's servant. Shiverasvarupa Hoy Krishna Nitya Das. Krishnera means of Krishna. This is our own Svarup, our own form. So now, can someone read text 31 and 32, please? 31.
Sukadeva Goswami said, when King Satyavrata spoke in this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who at the end of the Yuga had assumed the form of a fish to benefit his devotee and enjoy his pastimes in the water of inundation, responded as follows. Text 32. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O King, who can subdue your enemies. On the seventh day from today, the three worlds, Bhu, Bhuva, and Swa, will all merge
into the water of inundation. Yes. Can someone read text 33 till 37, please? Because the flood story comes up now, the flood pastime. 33 till 37.
When all the three worlds merge into the water, a large boat sent by me will appear before you. Thereafter, O king, you shall collect all types of herbs and seeds and load them onto that great boat. Then, accompanied by the 7 rishis and surrounded by all kinds of living entities, you shall get aboard that boat. And without moroseness, you shall easily travel with your companions on the ocean of inundation, the only illumination being the effulgence of the great rishis.
Yes, text 36.
Then, as the boat is tossed about by the powerful winds attached to the vessel to my horn by the means of great serpent Vasuki, for I shall be present by your side.
37.
Pulling the boat with you and all the rishis in it, O king, I shall travel in the water of devastation until the night of Lord Brahma's slumber is over.
Can you also read the first part of this purport? Yeah, essentially what's on the screen now.
Okay.
Until the Matsya Purana here in the middle. Yeah.
This particular devastation actually took place not during the night of Lord Brahma, but during his day, for it was during the time of Chakshusha Manu. Brahma's night takes place when Brahma goes to sleep, but in the daytime there are 14 Manus, one of whom is Chakshusha Manu. Therefore, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that although it was daytime for Lord Brahma, Brahma felt sleepy for a short time by the supreme will of the Lord. This short period is regarded as Lord Brahma's night. This has been elaborately discussed by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Laghu Bhagavatamrita. The following is a summary of his analysis. Because Agastya Muni cursed Swayambhuva Manu, during the time of Swayambhuva Manu, a devastation took place. This devastation is mentioned in the Matsya Purana.
Thank you. So during the time of Saksha Manu, by the supreme will of the Lord, there was suddenly another pralaya, or devastations. We will see later there are 4 kinds of devastations. I think so. Further, can someone read text 38, please?
Can you please mention, tell why the Agastya Muni cursed Swayambhuva Muni?
Say again. I didn't catch it.
Why the Agastya Muni cursed Swayambhuva Muni? What is the reason?
That was why Agastya Muni cursed Swayambhuva Manu.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know that, no. Must be a reason for sure. So we read text 38.
You will be thoroughly advised and favored by me, and because your inquiries, everything about my glories, which are known as Param Brahma, will be manifest within your heart. Thus you will know everything about me. After thus instructing the king, the Supreme Personality of Godhead immediately disappeared. Then King Satyavata began to wait for the time of which the Lord has instructed.
Yeah, thank you. The first text 38, which is on the screen now. There we have the purport. Can you read this?
As stated in
part, just this part.
As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya Chaham Hridisa Nivishto Matasmiti Jnanam Apoganam Cha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, is situated in everyone's heart, and from him come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. The Lord reveals himself in proportion to the ones surrendered to him. Yayeta mam prapatyante tam tadi bhajamham.
So surrender to his illusionary energy or to his internal energy. Internal energy means his service. Surrender to his service. So to the illusory energy means taking a position to enjoy in this material world. Surrender means to give oneself to Krishna. Lord Krishna allows us to realize Him in proportion to our surrender. Does that contradict what Bali Maharaj said? As I did, all I did was an attempt to offer obeisances, and yet you have done so much. Does that contradict Yayatama Prabhachante, that He reveals Himself to the proportion that we surrender unto Him? Where does the proportionate part come in? Is it proportionate or non-proportionate? That is my question. Then how to understand this? The Lord reciprocates according to our surrender. That is one side. What is the other side? The other side is what Srila Prabhupada is saying here. That one way to understand it is that is really shown in the story of Sudama. Sudama wanted to bring something to give to Krishna, but he had nothing in his house, this Sudan Vipra. So what did he do? He begged some rice from someone else, and he ended up giving that to Krishna. Krishna actually snatched it from him and took it. No, Sudama wanted to ask Krishna for some wealth, not because he wanted wealth. He was extremely poor, but he did not want wealth himself, but his wife was insisting. He was so poor. His wife said, just ask the Supreme Lord. We do not need to live like this. He went to Dwarka on his wife's pushing, but he really wanted to see Krishna. Externally, his reason was that he wanted wealth, but in fact he never asked Krishna for any wealth. But Krishna took that chipped rice from him and he ate one mouthful himself. But when they met the topic of wealth and asking for anything, that never came up when he was with Krishna, nor did Krishna say anything. Then Sudan went back to his place and he saw that everything had been transformed and that he was unlimitedly wealthy. Now the acharyas asked the question, why did Krishna didn't say anything? That he was going to give him all this wealth, but he never said anything. One reason that our acharyas give is why Krishna did not say anything is that Krishna was embarrassed, because Krishna does give proportionately. And he could not give Sudam proportionately because Sudam had given some chipped rice to Krishna when he did not possess anything himself. So he had to beg for it. So he gave Krishna more than he possessed. And Krishna found himself puzzled. I possess everything and there is nothing more than what I possess. So how am I going to reciprocate proportionally with this gift? Krishna found that he could not reciprocate proportionally because there is nothing more than he possesses. Therefore he was embarrassed to mention what he was going to do and therefore did not say anything. So is giving proportional or non-proportional? That's the question. If you look at it in front, if you look at it from the point of view of mathematics, it is non-proportional. When you look at it from the point of mood or bhava, then it is proportional. And that is what Krishna reciprocates with. The Lord sees the devotee's surrender And the Lord wants to give everything to someone who has surrendered unto him. Surrender means to give yourself to Krishna. And then Krishna wants to give himself. And Krishna is unlimited. You cannot be proportionate with something that is infinite. Because it is infinite. But in mood, it is one thing. And in surrender, there are graduations. That the greatest surrender is found with the residents of Vrindavan. Their giving themselves to Krishna is completely with not the slightest tinge of holding back. The gopis gives their selves completely, selflessly, that their surrender in love is incomparable. So how is Krishna reciprocating with them? Because he promises, Yeyatamam prabhachante, that he reciprocates with his devotees, but he finds himself defeated by the love of the gopis. Their love is so spotless and pure. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Krishna is Bhaunista and Ekanista. Bhaunista means that he has many devotees who are worshipping him. He has to take care of all of them. Therefore, that seems to dilute his ability to reciprocate proportionally, to surrender. At the other side, the gopis are ekanishta. Their focus is only one. So, for Krishna, to the pure, selfless, loving devotion of the gopis, he finds himself unable to reciprocate properly, even though he has promised Yeyatama Prabhachante, that he proportionally surrenders. But he says, Napariyeham, I'm unable to properly reciprocate with you for what you have done. Therefore you need to be satisfied with the satisfaction and ecstasy you experience on the level you are acting. There is nothing to compare with the love of the gopis, of the essence of Vrindavan, but here Srila Prabhupada is speaking in a general way. That, so, it says here in the purport, in responsive cooperation the Lord reveals himself in proportion to one's surrender. So we can expect to know Krishna in proportion to our surrender. So this means that it is not our study, not our endeavor that causes understanding of Krishna to blossom within our hearts. It is only Krishna revealing himself, allowing a soul to know him. It is not a mechanical process that it's not a mechanical process like I read and chant, study, serve, and therefore I advance. It's not like that. When we sincerely try to read and sincerely try to study and sincerely try to become actual devotees and give ourselves to Krishna, then to that Krishna reciprocates and allows us to understand him. To that degree, we are surrendered to the degree we are trustworthy. In a royal household, they have servants, nannies, butlers, and others like that. The common people do not see what the king and queen are doing in the inner part of their house. Why? Because they are going to exploit it. So the inner part of Krishna's household is Vrindavan. That is his true nature in the inner part of the house. He relaxes, he jokes with the queens. The common people look at that because otherwise they lose their respect for the king. They cannot look at it because otherwise they lose their respect for the king and they will not be able to be governed. So certain things are only allowed in the private inner quarters of the palace. They cannot see the ultimate dealing of the king, and after some while, then the ex-butler publishes a book of what really was going on in the inner part of the palace. What does that mean? Is that they are taking their knowledge of these intimate dealings and using it for themselves. In Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna has a screening process so that, to speak, no one is allowed in with the mentality that they are going to exploit what goes on in Goloka Vrindavan for themselves, because Krishna is the center. When the butler and the nanny, the nurse and servants in the palace, they must be devoted to the king and the queen. They need to have that type of integrity. Otherwise, they could not be there. Of course, in previous times, butlers and nannies could not do that because the king would cut off their heads. So according of giving ourselves to Krishna sincerely, to that degree we are trustworthy, and to that degree of trustworthiness, Krishna reveals himself, because we will not exploit our position for ourselves. When you become a devotee, then there are certain benefits that come to you. What do we do with the benefits? Do we become attracted to them? Do we become proud? And do we exploit the circumstances? For your self-interest. Krishna watches is because proportionally to the point that we have the mood of being simply a servant of Krishna, Lord Krishna will reveal himself and allow us to understand his true nature and develop love for Krishna, because that ultimately comes by Krishna's mercy. There is nothing we can do, therefore we call it causeless mercy. Causeless mercy is that there is nothing we can do. There is no cause from our side that can allow the mercy to come. We can do our part and make ourselves receptive, but the mercy part is up to Krishna. We can try to attract it, but we cannot force it in any way. It simply depends on mercy. It depends on his freedom. He has freedom to act as he likes. This means surrender. You can act as you like. I'm under your care. So, can someone continue to read the purport? And that's starting with one has fully surrendered to the Lord.
One who is fully surrendered to the Lord, no fear of the modes of material nature, for everything is but an expansion of Lord's glories. Sarvam Kalau Idam Brahm. And these glories are gradually revealed and realized. The Lord is the supreme purifier. Param Brahma, Parindama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhava. Bhagavad Gita 10:12. The more one is purified, and the more he wants to know about the Supreme. Maharaj, it is.
Yeah, about the Supreme.
The more the Lord reveals to him, full knowledge of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan is revealed to the pure devotees. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 10:11, Tesham evanu pampartam, aham ajnanajam tamaha, nashayam yatma bhavasto jnana deepena bhasvata. Out of compassion for them, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance.
Thank you. It's 6:30 now. We will have 10 minutes break. At 6:40 we will continue.
Recording stopped.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, we can continue.
Recording in progress.
Just a moment. Yep. I will share it. And then there's a problem with the share. I try it again. Yeah, now it goes. So can someone read text 39 till 44? Only the translation.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
After thus instructing the king, the Supreme Personality of Godhead immediately disappeared. Then King Satyavata began to wait for the time of which the Lord had instructed.
Yeah, text 40.
After spreading Kusha with its tips pointing east, the saintly king, himself facing the northeast, sat down on the grass and began to meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who had assumed the form of a fish. Thereafter, gigantic clouds pouring incessant water swelled the ocean more and more. Thus the ocean began to overflow onto the land and inundate the entire world. As Satyavrata remembered the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he saw a boat coming near him. Thus he collected herbs and creepers, and accompanied by saintly Brahmanas, he got aboard the boat. The saintly Brahmanas, being pleased with the king, said to him, "O king, please meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Keshava. He will save us from this impending danger and arrange for our well-being." And also 44.
Yeah. 44.
Then, while the king constantly meditated upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a large golden fish appeared in the ocean of inundation. The fish had one horn and was 8 million miles long.
Yeah, so how can we believe that a fish with one horn, not two, was 8 million miles long? If you try to measure it, then it would be exceedingly difficult. How long is 8 million miles? It is beyond our comprehension. We cannot conceive a fish 8 million miles long. But then again, if we accept the concept of God as an unlimited person who can expand unlimitedly, so Vamandev pierced with his foot the shell of the universe. If we accept the concept of God, and God means the inconceivable, then he can do this if he wants to. Then how do we know? We accept what Shastra says, or do we not accept what Shastra says? Who can say that God cannot do this? Because by saying that you accept the existence of God, in that sense, it is a meaningless statement. Niyuta Yonaya is a Sanskrit, and a Niyojana is 8 miles. So Niyuta is probably a million. Can someone read text 45, please?
Following the instruction. Don't you can go ahead.
Okay. Following the instructions formally given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the king anchored the boat to the fifth horn, using the serpent Vasuki as a rope. Thus, being satisfied, he began offering prayers to the Lord.
So, following are the prayers that King Satyavrata is offering to Matsya, the fish incarnation of the Lord. Now we hear the prayers. Can someone read 46?
The king said, by the grace of the Lord, those who have lost their self-knowledge since time immemorial, and those and who because of this ignorance are involved in a material conditional life full of miseries, obtain a chance to meet the Lord's devotee. I accept that Supreme Personality of Godhead as the Supreme Spiritual Master.
So that is actually Krishna's true mercy upon a soul when he arranges or awards knowledge and instructions that will end someone's material life. And that the Lord is accepting as his spiritual master. That is what he says here, because those in the material world are falsely identified with the body, and therefore are entangled in material life. And they are undergoing therefore so much suffering and frustration and disappointment. By the grace of Krishna, he arranges that he meets the devotee. The Lord who makes the arrangement is the ultimate spiritual master. He's actually the original spiritual master, and all other spiritual masters are representatives of the Lord. So we have heard before what we need to leave behind is our material desires to go to the spiritual world. Keep that in mind while we hear this prayer. So can someone read the first part of the purport up to the Lord's order. The Lord's order. Anyway, we will come there. You can start reading up to the Lord's order, properly in executing the Lord's order. It's 6-7 lines. So
yes, Mother. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually the Supreme Spiritual Master. The Supreme Lord knows everything about the suffering of the conditioned soul, and therefore he appears in this material world, sometimes personally, sometimes by an incarnation, and sometimes by authorizing a living being to act on his behalf. In all cases, however, he is the original spiritual master who enlightens the conditioned souls who are suffering in the material world. The Lord is always busy helping the conditioned souls in many ways. Therefore, he is addressed here as Paramo Guru Bhavan, the representative of the spiritual Supreme Personality of Godhead who acts to spread Krishna consciousness, is also guided by the Supreme Lord to act properly in executing the Lord's
order. Thank you. So the spiritual master is guided by the Lord and represents him. Like in the United Nations, one individual is the representative of a country, and even if he's voting yes, it is like the country is voting yes, and he's an individual. But because he's empowered by the country, he has a responsibility to vote on behalf of the country. So the spiritual master is also guided by the Supreme Lord to act in a particular way. Yes, yet he's an individual and is different from the country, but he's non-different in an other sense. That can someone continue to read the purport? Until the end, such a person may appear.
Such a person may appear to be an ordinary human being, but because he acts on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Spiritual Master, he is not to be neglected as ordinary. It is therefore said, Acharyam Mam Vijaniya. An Acharya who acts on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be understood to be as good as the Supreme Lord himself. Sakshadaritveena samasta shastre uktastata bhavyata eva sabdi. Kintu prabodhya priya eva satsya tasya vande guru shri charanaravindam. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has advised that the spiritual master acting on the Supreme Lord's behalf must be worshipped as being as good as the Supreme Lord, for he is the Lord's most confidential servant in broadcasting the Lord's message for the benefit of the conditioned souls involved in the material world.
So the spiritual master is not like the Supreme Lord in the sense that he is all powerful like the Lord, but he represents the Supreme Lord and therefore is the Supreme Lord in that sense. The Supreme Lord accepts service to himself performed through the spiritual master because he is a confidential servant in the preaching and represents him. So the instruction of Saksadari means that we should not mistake him for an ordinary person because that will get us more and more in trouble. To see the spiritual master as the Lord acting through him, that is the safest side to be in, because he is a person in the way that Krishna accepts worship through his deity forms. The deity is non different from the Lord, but yet they are made out of brass or stone. So they are brass or they are stone or they are God. Everyone knows that they are made out of brass, but to think that they are only made out of brass, then one disrespects his spiritual energy that works through the material, and that material energy is for the Lord also a spiritual energy. From the prisoner's point of view, the prison and the hospital are different, but from the government's point of view, they are both departments maintained by the government. So from Krishna's point of view, from the spiritual point of view, the deity, that the material energy is spiritual energy. It is his energy, so it is spiritual energy. The spiritual master is carrying the Lord's Kripa Shakti. Yes, he is a human, but if we see him as a human, then we will never listen to him. And therefore we won't benefit from having a spiritual master. The instruction is to see him as Sakshadari, non-different from Hari. This verse of the prayer says that the conditioned soul who suffers in the material world and who transmigrates from one body to the next by Krishna's grace, then get instruction how to get out. And that's the essence. Now, can someone read text 47?
In hopes of becoming happy in this material world, the foolish conditioned soul performs fruitive activities that result only in suffering. But by rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one becomes free from such false desires for happiness. May my Supreme Spiritual Master cut the knots of false desires from the core of my heart.
Yes. The attempt to get happiness in this material world is a dream, but the actual fulfillment never occurs. The first verse says that one in the material world can accept the Lord as his spiritual master or the Lord's representative and engages us in devotional service. And this text says that because of serving Krishna, the tendency to enjoy separately from Krishna and fruitively is vanquished from the heart. It concerns desires for seeking happiness where there is no happiness, which means in the mirage of the desert, of the material world where no water truly exists. So that is dissipated. This tendency to enjoy the material world as if the material world is meant for me. And it is such a hard habit to break. We know we are insignificant. When we become older, then we experience the frustrations of material life. We experience our body letting us down. It must happen. Yet the heart, not representing the tendency to enjoy in the material world, remains very firm. That by service to the Lord with devotion, that tendency to enjoy in this material world is removed, is dissipated. And now the third verse of the prayer. Can someone read 48?
One who wants to be free from material entanglement should take to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and give up the contamination of ignorance involving pious and impious activities. Thus, one regains his original identity just as a block of gold or silver sheds all dirt and becomes purified when treated with fire. May that inexhaustible Supreme Personality of Godhead become our spiritual master, for he is the original spiritual master of all other spiritual masters.
Yeah. So one who wants to be free from material entanglement must take to devotional service. So on the one hand, we need to walk through that gate and give up our self-centered desires. We need to give that up. On the other hand, what we need to do is to serve the Lord. If we are not serving Krishna, then we are making an attempt to enjoy in this world. Contamination of ignorance involves pious and impious activities. Good and bad are both self-centered. They are relative, one to the temporary material world. Thus, by walking through this gate, one gives up the exploitation of matter and turning to the service of Krishna. Then one gains one's eternal identity, his true identity, his Svarup as servant. If we are dealing with the spiritual master, then we are not dealing with him, but also with Krishna acting through him. If someone kidnaps an ambassador to a country, then is he kidnapping an individual only? No, he's insulting the whole country. He's insulting the whole country too. You are dealing with more than the individual when you are dealing with the ambassador. Similarly, when we deal with empowered personalities, we are dealing with more than individuals. We are dealing with Krishna too. So King Satyavrata wants the Lord to move him from the material energy to becoming free from the material energy and become situated in our natural position. Now we have the purport that we a little further. Yeah, can someone read from beginning here, even though we may not have the fortune to contact the Supreme Lord?
Even though we may not have the fortune to contact the Supreme Lord personally, the Lord representative is as good as the Lord himself, because such a representative does not say anything unless it is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore gives a definition of Guru. Pyare dekha tare kaha Krishna Upadesh. The bona fide Guru is the who advises his disciple exactly in accordance with the principles spoken by Krishna. The bona fide Guru is he who has accepted Krishna as Guru. This is the Guru Parampara system. The original Guru is everything is final and sorry. The original Guru is Vyasadeva because he is the speaker of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein everything spoken relates to Krishna. Therefore, Guru Puja is known as Vyasa Puja. In the final analysis, the original Guru is Krishna. His disciple is Narada, whose disciple is Vyasa, and in this way we gradually come in touch with the Guru Parampara. One cannot become a Guru if he doesn't know what the personality of Godhead Krishna or his incarnation wants. The mission of the Guru is the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world.
So Srila Prabhupada's point here is that to serve the Guru means to serve Krishna. Because the Guru carries the desire of Krishna. He himself is engaged in serving Krishna and he carries that. instructs the disciple in such a way that it pleases Krishna. So the spiritual master learned this from his guru and from the Shastra. That I go back again to the verse. Well, so the verse is, one who wants to be free from material entanglement should take to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, giving up the contamination of ignorance involving pious and impious activities. So it concerns the giving up of the petty materialistic endeavors, which are completely insignificant compared to eternity. Holding on material endeavors is like children fighting over a toy. Who is right, who is wrong? It is petty and insignificant, and we forget it in due time. In the purpose, Srila Prabhupada explains how to serve the Lord through the spiritual master who carries the desire of the Lord. What is the desire of Krishna? Is to preach the message of the Lord. Now we have text 49. Can someone read the translation of 49?
Neither all the demigods, nor the so-called gurus, nor all other people, either independently or together, can offer mercy that equals even 1/10,000th of yours. Therefore, I wish to take shelter of your lotus feet.
Because everyone else, their acts of kindness have to do with the temporary body and trying to become satisfied within the material world, and the mercy of Krishna is something on a completely different level. What is that level? It is freeing oneself from the material entanglement, bringing them to the lotus feet of Krishna. That's the difference. So I will read the purport. It is said, Kamaistairtarittahyam prabhatyanti na devata. People in general, being motivated by material desires, worship the demigods to get fruitive results very quickly. So this relates to those worshipping demigods or more powerful personalities to get something. So it said, people generally do not become devotees of Lord Vishnu, since Lord Vishnu never becomes the order supplier of his devotee. Lord Vishnu does not give a devotee benedictions that will create a further demand for benedictions. By worshipping the demigods, one may get results, but as described in Bhagavad Gita, Antavatu Valamtivam Tad Bhavalpyalpa Medasham. So it is done by people who are Alpa Medasham, people with little intelligence. So, whatever great benedictions one may achieve from the demigods are all temporary. Because the demigods themselves are temporary, their benedictions are also temporary and have no permanent value. Those who aspire for such benedictions have a poor fund of knowledge. Tad bhavati alba medasham. The benediction of Lord Vishnu are different. By the mercy of the Lord, one can be completely free from material contamination and go back home, back to Godhead. So a devotee's desire is only to please the Lord. He's in the center. Such religion is not non-sectarian. That is actual religion. But people want to keep their contamination and still go back to Godhead. But we can't. So, therefore, the benedictions offered by the demigods cannot compare even to 1/10,000 of the Lord's benedictions. So, how many temporaries does it take before it adds up to eternity? You can multiply 0 by any kind of number, you will still get 0. So, further, one should not therefore try to obtain benedictions from the demigods or false gurus. One should aspire only for the benedictions offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. as the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 80:66. Savram Pisham Kam Sramasham Tvam Sarapabhyam Kshisyami Machicha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So that is the greatest benediction. You will become mine and I become yours, Krishna says. What will compare to that? How many material experience do we have to go through to understand that there is nothing in this world that will satisfy the soul? So Krishna says, do not fear. Just surrender unto me, I will take care of all your sinful reactions. The greatest benediction on the eternal platform is that we give ourselves to Krishna. That is what Satyavata is saying. He's criticizing here the material desires. One is trying to fulfill all these material desires, either in a pious or impious ways, or by worship of the demigods, or by making the attempt to be satisfied in the material world. These are all condemned. Why are they all condemned? Because you cannot take them to the spiritual world. You cannot have both. You cannot put water on the fire and have it blazed at the same time. You cannot try to be materially satisfied and at the same time be a pure soul. The two are in opposition. So he's asking the Lord, the Supreme Spiritual Master, to cut his knot of material desires by engaging him in devotional service, so that these material desires become vanquished and become insignificant. Therefore, for this purpose, to get this kind of benediction, full spiritual desire must take birth in the heart, and one must engage in spiritual activity with the desire to love and serve Krishna. Can someone read text 50, please?
As the blind man, being unable to see, accepts another blind man as his leader, people who do not know the goal of life accept someone as a guru who is a rascal and a fool. But we are interested in self-realization. Therefore, we accept you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as our spiritual master. For you are able to see in all directions and are omniscient like the sun. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So here Satyavrata is saying not to accept a guide as a guide, a blind man. What is happening when you follow a blind man? Where do we end up? In a ditch or in a well, or walking in front of a truck, or anyway in difficulty. So he's saying we don't want that. We don't want things for materialistic people. If they are materialistic, then they are by the definition blind. What does the materialistic? What are the materialistic people? What are they not seeing? The emphasis is on the temporary, and he does not see that his life is waning, and he does not see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Their focus is on I want, and I want. Satyavata says that instead of accepting a blind person, we are accepting you, my Lord, as our spiritual master. Now, can someone read the first part of this purport? That up to moment, numbers of gold mines come into being, up to here.
Okay. The conditioned soul being wrapped in ignorance and therefore not knowing the goal of life, accepts a guru who can juggle words and make some display of magic that is wonderful to a fool. Sometimes a foolish person accepts someone as a guru because he can manufacture a small quantity of gold by mystic yogic power. Because such a disciple has a poor fund of knowledge, he cannot judge whether the manufacture of gold is the criterion for a guru. Why should one not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, from whom unlimited numbers of gold mines come into being?
So Srila Prabhupada spoke here about one guru in particular who used to produce gold or vibhuti, some ashes. People would follow him, considering him as God. There is a big temple on the way to Mathura, which was being built during Prabhupada's time. This was built by a so-called guru, and his expertise was to tell in which way the stock market would go. Imagine how many followers he had. That is what people want. He received so many donations, he was very popular and successful. He was a chain smoker, but materialistic people, where do they go for shelter? And amongst them, who would be interested in hearing the truth? They do not want to hear. They do not want to hear this. Rather, they want to hear that what they want is okay. But in one sense, we are even more foolish than the people who don't know any better. That is what Narottam Das Thakur was saying. Because I don't truly devote myself to the Lord, I don't worship Krishna truly, even if I know better. I drink the poison of materialistic activities even if I know better. So what is the most unfortunate? Srila Prabhupada is decrying false gurus here. Can someone continue reading, beginning with Am Sarvasya Prabhavo until the end?
Yes, go ahead. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. All the gold mines are created by the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, why should one accept a magician who can manufacture only a small portion of gold? Such gurus are accepted by those who are blind, not knowing the goal of life. Maharaj Satyavrata, however, knew the goal of life. He knew the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he accepted the Lord as his guru. Either the Supreme Lord or his representative can become guru. The Lord says, Mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. One can get relief from the clutches of Maya as soon as he surrenders unto me. Therefore, it is the Guru's business to instruct his disciple, surrender unto the Supreme. Surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead if he wants relief from the material clutches. This is the symptom of the Guru. The same principle was instructed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Yara Dekha Tarid Kaha Krishna Upadesh. In other words, one is advised not to accept a guru who does not follow the path of instruction given by Lord Krishna.
Thank you. So, we will finish this chapter tomorrow by going to the last 10 verses. But are there so far any questions, comments? It's very essential knowledge we hear here, that we understand the necessity to give up these material desires. But even if we understand intellectually, we can't give up because of attachment. That illusion is so deep. But the method is given here how to come over it. And yes, any questions? If you have any questions, please note them down, and we can discuss them at the beginning of the session tomorrow. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Recording stopped.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Thank